Gentlemen, here's the main event of the evening.
Before he became a household name in the world of mixed martial arts, Brock Lesnar was already a force to be reckoned with. From dominating college wrestling mats to being a Minnesota Viking, or becoming the next big thing in the WWE, Lesnar's journey to the UFC was as unconventional as it was impressive. Today, we're diving deep into Brock Lesnar's incredible rise all the way to becoming heavyweight champion. And how he fell from MMA stardom seemingly as quickly as he rose. Brock Lesnar has one of the most interesting stories in the sport of MMA, so without further ado, sit back, relax, grab a snack, and turn your brain off for some good old-fashioned MMA content. Brock Edward Lesnar's journey began in the heartland of America, where he honed his skills as a wrestler. Brock would go on to become a four-time All-American collegiate wrestler, having spent 2 years at Bismarck State College before transferring to the University of Minnesota. Lesnar's collegiate wrestling career was nothing short of legendary, amassing a 106-5 record and winning national championships at both schools. This early success laid the foundation for his future athletic endeavors, and everyone who saw this young freakish athlete wrestle knew he was something special indeed.
Brock Lesnar from Minnesota is your heavyweight champion in the year 2000, and the senior goes out with a big win.
After college, Lesnar transitioned to the WWE, where he quickly became one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling. Captivated audiences worldwide, performing physically demanding stunts and maintaining an impressive 280-pound frame, while his time in WWE from a real litmus test of what a true badass Lesnar is.
It's a 5-pound pole! And the rock counter!
Ever WWE Heavyweight Champion in 2002, Brock decided there was more out there for him than working for Vince McMahon for now.
I was almost bankrupt my first run. Yeah, I just signed a big deal with Vince back then 20 years ago. 6 months later, I'm like, yeah, go screw yourself, Vince. He was a little chap. You know? So, but I had to do that, and he understood that. I had to leave. I had to go out, and I wasn't done yet. Went out and made my name. I paved my own road, you know.
He set his sights on a new athletic challenge altogether, NFL football.
Professional wrestler, national wrestling champion at University of Minnesota, local hero.
Despite not having played since high school, Lesnar's sheer freakish athleticism earned him a tryout with the Minnesota Vikings. His 40-yard dash time of 4.7 seconds would have ranked first among defensive tackles at the NFL Combine that year. Although he didn't make the final roster, his brief foray into football showcased his versatility and overall determination in life. When his dream of playing for the Vikings were plundered, Brock's football days were behind him, so he returned to wrestling, only to a different organization this time. Brock had a short stint with New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2005, only a year or so after he left the WWE. After his short trip to Japan, he then sought to conquer the next thing, mixed martial arts. After just one professional fight in 2007, Dana White had seen all he needed to see. Uncle Dana offered Brock a UFC contract, and thus, Lesnar's iconic UFC heavyweight run would begin. His first UFC bout was at UFC 81, against Frank Mir, a seasoned veteran.
It's going to be very difficult for him to pass the guard of Frank Mir. It's a very unusual guard. He's going for a footlock. He's going to do it.
Lesnar!
He's going to hit it. He taps.
Over! Frank Mir defeats Brock Lesnar!
Although Lesnar lost his UFC debut fight, his potential was undeniable. Not to mention he had brought millions of new eyes to the sport just with his appearance alone, regardless of if he won or lost. Lesnar would then fight Heath Herring in his next bout, winning decisively. In an unprecedented series of events, Lesnar would be granted a title shot after only winning a single fight within the UFC. Brock was set to face off for the UFC Heavyweight Championship against the heavyweight legend himself, Randy Couture. At the time, Couture was the baddest man to set foot in the Octagon. He was the man to beat in the heavyweight division for years at this point. Few thought that Brock would ever get past Randy, and what we learned is that we may have underestimated Lesnar. After capturing the UFC gold, Lesnar didn't just win the title of baddest heavyweight on earth.
Brock, in your fourth fight in MMA, challenging and winning the heavyweight title, did you ever believe that this was possible?
You know, I
I just believe in hard work, and that it pays off.
Congratulations, you are the new UFC Heavyweight Champion, and you are a handful for anybody to deal with in the future.
He dominated the entire heavyweight division. Within a few years, Brock had gone from choreographed matches in the squared circle to stepping foot in an MMA cage with some of the most skilled and practiced wrestlers, strikers, and martial arts practitioners in the world. Frank Mir was awarded a rematch against the new champion, but Brock would prove too much for Mir this time at UFC 100.
So much power in those fists, Mike. Up again, it's there, and it is all over. He's out. Brock Lesnar is the undisputed UFC Heavyweight Champion.
The Lesnar hype train had arrived, and so did the millions of new eyes on the UFC as a whole. Lesnar would be sidelined for a while due to a severe bout of diverticulitis. Brock would have to undergo emergency surgery, but he would heal up and return to continue his dominance. Next, in late 2009, he would face Shane Carwin at UFC 116. Carwin was a powerhouse striker and the interim heavyweight champion. Despite being pummeled in the first round, Lesnar's resilience shone through as he secured a submission win in the second round.
With one of the strongest men in the mixed martial arts world. Oh, it's all over! It is all over! Wow! Lesnar is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world! Wow! Wow!
His reign included 2 successful title defenses and lasted 707 days, the longest in UFC heavyweight history. After his spectacular showing against Shane Carwin, Lesnar's career faced significant hurdles. Brock was never the same after his diverticulitis surgery. He had to relinquish his title to Cain Velasquez in an eye-opening loss. Cain Velasquez would win by TKO after Brock seemingly completely lost control.
Velasquez, Lesnar, spinning out of control.
And got bested by Cain, as he would go on to humbly admit after the fight.
I really don't know what happened. He beat my ass, that's what happened, if I put it that way.
His next fight against Alistair Overeem ended in a first-round TKO, with Lesnar's weakened midsection being a clear target. Overeem would only need to give Lesnar one hard body blow, and it was game over. The Beast incarnate himself would suffer his second straight loss, and would then battle yet another bout of diverticulitis in 2011, which would be followed with an announcement that Brock would be retiring from the UFC. Brock's retirement from fighting lasted 5 years. Between 2012 and 2015, Lesnar would return to his roots and pick right back up where he left off, being one of Vince McMahon's key players throughout 2 decades of the WWE. In 2014, Brock would get involved in a storyline with none other than the dead man himself, The Undertaker. Brock and Taker would have one of the most defeated WrestleMania streaks.
Lesnar counter! Brock Lesnar counter! Lesnar counter! Going for a triple! A third and five!
In 2015, Brock would come out and publicly state that he had no intentions of coming back to MMA. However, in 2016, the organization would announce that Lesnar would be headlining UFC 200 against Mark Hunt.
Brock Lesnar is back, returning at UFC 200.
Is that real?
That's real. That's as real as it gets.
I'm just finding this out.
Lesnar dominated Hunt for most of the fight, battering Hunt with vicious ground and pound in the third to secure the unanimous decision victory. He also was paid a UFC record $2.5 million purse for the fight.
America, from one white boy to all nationalities, we gotta stand together, people.
This UFC payday record was broken at UFC 202 by Conor McGregor.
Notorious Conor McGregor!
Despite his relatively short fight career, his accomplishments are insanely remarkable. Becoming the UFC Heavyweight Champion in just 4 fights.
He just shoved that cop aside. 1,000 years ago, the only way you saw a guy like this is if they came up on your shore in a boat and then you ran.
Defending his title twice and holding the longest reign in UFC heavyweight history are feats that might never be duplicated. Brock Lesnar's career was like a shooting star.
Lesnar is climbing to the top. I'd love to do it, Cole. Oh my God!
Brilliant and unforgettable, even if it was fleeting. Brock Lesnar's career has been unlike anything we've ever seen.
I'm coming for you, motherfucker! Hulk Hogan, we coming for you!
And likely will ever see again. There's no denying his stature in the sport of MMA. As one of the most promising prospects to transition from professional wrestling, Brock Lesnar was rewriting the MMA record books while still learning the ropes as a reigning champion. He brought so much mainstream attention to the sport in an era where MMA was just gaining its footing. Brock helped to bring mixed martial arts to a more widespread audience during the UFC's awkward teenage years and achieved what many thought to be impossible. He also remains one of the sport's biggest what-ifs.
You know, he's real intense. You know, he hasn't changed a bit.
What's incredible with Brock is that Brock went from pro wrestling to being the UFC Heavyweight Champion and did so with such a short amount of time. Like, what that guy did is nothing short of insanity. Some top flight MMA instructor gets a hold of him as a young man and really teaches him how to strike. He would have been unstoppable.
What if he had chosen the Octagon over the WWE ring right out of college? What if his diet had been different?
And then there was a problem with the diverticulitis, so he had to get a long section of his intestine removed, I believe.
And he had eaten a lot more fiber and a lot less red meat. Would he have fought another 5 years? What if the UFC didn't have a weight limit of 265 pounds, allowing him to compete at 300 if he wanted to? These questions have crossed my mind more times than I care to admit. Fans from my era were captivated by Lesnar, and many still are. Whether they cheered for him or eagerly awaited his downfall, his undeniable talent commanded attention, and we tuned in over and over. No matter the result, we always enjoyed the next big thing. Suggesting otherwise would be an affront to his legacy. There was only one Brock Lesnar. Put some respect on his name. Thanks for watching Main Event MMA. Stay tuned for next week's video by hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell icon to stay notified for each week's upload. If you love MMA content just like this, you're not going to want to miss what's next. Drop a like on the video and leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer everyone. See you all on the next one.